Our next speaker is BAFTA winner Tim Reid, co-creator of Peter Kay's Car Share, the most successful British sitcom of its decade and the streaming era. Tim demonstrates how comedy is a masterclass in the timing, truth, and human perspective that great leadership and communication all depend on. A real treat and a pleasure to introduce now to you Tim Reid with his keynote, Funny Thinking, Serious Lessons from the World of Comedy. Tim.
Thanks, Wazim. Thank you so much. I was going to start going. I love a Yorkie, but it's got nothing to do with my talk, so I'm not going to do that. As AI gets better and better at what it does so well, I think it's time that we unleashed our own unique human superpower, and that is our imagination. And having spent 30 years or more working in the creative industries, in ad agencies, innovation consultancies, and as a comedy writer, so working in the world of comedy, I recently had a bit of a revelation. And that is that the most effective ignition key to spark our imagination is laughter. So I've run hundreds of idea sessions, creative collaborations, suggest fests, thought showers, tissue sessions, whatever you call them, those times when we get together to have ideas. And I saw that time and time again, the moment when the magic starts to happen and we move from being all beard strokey and kind of wondering where the next idea is coming from, and we move into a creatively energized place where the ideas flow thick and fast, that moment always happens at the same time. And it's when somebody says something funny. So when somebody says something that makes everybody else laugh. And it happened time and time again. I've run sessions for government, pharmaceutical, financial services, Coca-Cola, Durex, and it's always the same, right? The moment we start having the ideas that land with people, where we get excited, those ideas make people laugh. And I looked into this. I thought, as a comedy writer and an innovation consultant, I'm fairly well placed to try and work out what is going on here. Why do ideas make us laugh? Why do the ideas start flowing even more when we are laughing? And as I looked into it, I found I wasn't the first person to really notice this. In fact, David Ogilvy, an advertising legend, he set up Ogilvy and Mather. He's reputedly the guy that Don Draper in Mad Men is based on. He said, the best ideas come as jokes. Make your thinking as funny as possible. But it's kind of counterintuitive, isn't it? I mean, I knew he was right. I'd seen it happen. You know, in all the ideas sessions I've run, I know that the best ideas do come as jokes. And when we're having funny thinking, that's when the sparks really fly. But when we get together to have ideas, it's normally because there's a big, serious problem to solve, or a pitch we need ideas for, or we need to come up with ideas for a different way of working. We're under pressure. And yet the best ideas just come as jokes. It kind of seems counterintuitive. But there's a real logic behind it. And again, as a comedy writer and an idea consultant, a creativity consultant, I looked into it and I kind of thought, the more I thought about it, I thought there's some real shared DNA between jokes and great ideas. And that shared DNA is surprising truths. Right? Comedy is really based on surprising truths, a truth that resonates with us in a way that we hadn't thought of before. If you think of any great stand-up comedians, Peter Kay, Billy Connolly, Robin Williams, Mickey Flanagan, the things that really resonate, they're surprising truths. You know, when Mickey Flanagan's "Let's go, I'm out," you kind of laugh at that because you go, I know what he means, but I'd never thought of it like that before. And all sitcom characters and stories that we love are based out of surprising truths. It's a truth, we get it, we go, oh yeah, you've spotted something, that feels real to me, but it's surprised us. I've never thought of it in that way before. Surprising truths. They're also at the heart of all great original ideas. Right? Original ideas surprise us because we'd never thought of it before. But they're all based in a truth, born out of an insight. They hit the brief. The reason we're having this idea session, the reason we need to try and come up with ideas is normally there's a truth there that we're trying to either leverage or solve. And so original ideas that do that then surprise us. And that surprising truth works in the same way that jokes do, in the same way that comedy does. So it's no surprise it kind of makes us laugh. And we've known this for a long time. Einstein knew this, actually, Albert Einstein. He said, if at first the idea doesn't feel absurd, then there's no hope for it. And absurdity makes us laugh. So according to Einstein, ideas have to make us laugh. Great ideas have to make us laugh. And so that's why when I'm running an idea session or training people how to do it, I make it very clear that if you've got a thought or an idea that you're worried about saying because you think people will laugh at it, I'm kind of on a mission to flip that round and think, no, if you've got an idea and you think it might be funny, then you must say it. See that as a red flag. And if you hear an idea and it makes you laugh, again, red flag, there's probably a real surprising truth in there somewhere, an original idea that we need to take notice of. And so I looked into it more, actually, and I discovered that there's a whole science around laughter. It's called gelatology. And a particular study that fascinated me in terms of the role of humor in creativity was done by a professor of psychology, Professor Karuna Subramanian at the University of California in San Francisco. And she did a whole study looking at how humor affects our ability to come up with ideas. And what she did, she took 3 randomized samples of people, and each group were given a creativity test. I think it was a word association test where you're given a load of letters, come up with the most words or most different phrases you can out of that. But each group was given a different bit of stimulus before they took the task. So one group watched a comedy. They watched a Robin Williams gig. Another group watched a horror film. They watched The Shining. And then the other group were forced to sit through a lecture in quantum mathematics. And she found every time she did this, without fail, the group that had been laughing came up with more and better ideas, time and time again, no matter how she randomized the sample. And so she thought, right, we need to see what's going on. So she then put each group, as they went through the bit of stimulus, through an MRI scanner to scan their brains and see what was going on. And what she found was, when we laugh, the group that was laughing, the bit of the brain that's most associated with making fresh connections, with linking the left and right brain, with flexible thinking, with being open to new ideas, it's called the anterior cingulate cortex, the ACC. And she said, when people are laughing, that bit of the brain gets stimulated more than anything else, much more than if we are frightened and much more than when we're concentrating. When we're laughing, the bit of our brain that comes up with ideas is most stimulated, it's activated. So laughter not only comes when we have an idea, because it's a surprising truth, but when we start laughing as a group, we're then far more likely to have new ideas, because that bit of the brain is wired now for ideas, for unleashing our imagination. So we get into this magical, virtuous circle of creativity. Laughter sparks it all off. But the other thing laughter does is it's a signal. It's a signal amongst the group that we're in a safe place to play. We laugh with our friends mainly. We laugh as a signal of safety, as a signal of, I'm happy to make myself vulnerable. And that's exactly the kind of environment that we need to get into when we're generating ideas in groups. So laughter does all of those magical things. It accompanies a great idea because it's a surprising truth. It wires up our brains to keep having ideas, and it signals to everyone, this is a safe place where we can get playful. So what can we do about it? Well, having worked in comedy now for over 10 years and written a few sitcoms and worked with lots of comedians, I've seen that there are tools and techniques and exercises used in the world of comedy that comedians and improvisers and comedy writers use to help them keep coming up with a stream of ideas and to help them harness the creative power of laughter in a writer's room, for example. And the key thing that comedy professionals are brilliant at is navigating between the two very distinct creative mindsets. And those are expansive thinking and reductive thinking. In the world of comedy, we call that clown thinking and then editor thinking. And what comedy professionals, comedy writers are brilliant at is getting into the right shape between those two different ways of thinking. And if you picture this, the kind of a big upside down diamond or a kite shape or kipper tie shape, what I mean by that is when we get together to have ideas, if we could spend as much time as possible, ideally about 3/4 of the time we've got, being expansive, in clown thinking mode, having ideas, sparking ideas, building on other people's ideas, having fun, being playful, having a laugh, playing with ideas, exploring new possibilities. If we can do that for as long as possible, we will have more and better ideas and more fun doing it and get the energy right and harness the power of that. Before we then get reductive, this is important, getting judgmental about all these ideas we've generated. Of course, we need to do that. Editor thinking. What we tend to do, though, in companies, in business as leaders, is instead of getting into that shape, we get into this shape where someone suggests something and we kill it off. What if we did this? No, it's too expensive. What if we did that? No, it wouldn't work. What if we did that? The client would hate it. What if we did that? The Daily Mail would kill us. What if we did that? It's illegal. So we get into this. We never get fully into real creative zone that you can with clown thinking. So in my talks, I share lots of different tools and techniques and exercises that we can all adopt to really embrace clown thinking better. Because I think if we can all really embrace that ignition key that sparks our creativity, our imagination, laughter, and understand how and when to use it, it really is our unique human superpower, because AI can't make us laugh. AI is brilliant at lots of things, but it's rubbish at delivering surprising truths. It can't tickle us. It's like trying to tickle yourself because it doesn't get us. It doesn't get us on a human level. It can't understand our particular truths and intuitively kind of understand what we can relate to as humans. And it finds it very difficult to surprise us. It's obviously incredible at understanding and analysing everything that's gone before. It's not great at making those creative leaps. So surprising truths aren't in its gift. But I think that highlights one of the unique human superpowers that I think we should all get better at harnessing and using. Thank you for listening. I'm going to get back to my Yorkie.
Thank you so much. That's Tim there. Tim Reid with smart, fresh lessons that travel far beyond the world of comedy.